hell was that? Welcome to the Bears Cave. Sam, one word, how would you describe that game?
Roller coaster.
Okay.
That'd be how I would describe that game. Roller coaster.
Sure. Yeah, I think that's pretty apt. I mean, that's one of the tensest I've ever been throughout an entire game.
Oh
Just
yeah.
they kept it. They did not keep it very stress free. I mean, sometimes if you're in a
Oh man.
blowout loss, you can kind of like, okay, whatever. But uh,
Right.
that was a tense one right up to the last moment. The
Oh yeah.
horrible
Right.
last moment.
Like you said, like it's one thing. Like if we lose 38-0, like it sucks, but you're not gonna remember it forever.
Sure.
This is, and I saw this online. Like this is a game we're gonna remember forever.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna tell my grandkids about this game.
Yep. Well, anyway, welcome back to the Bears Cave. I made a tiny little logo thing. We're probably having a thumbnail. We're doing it second week in a row. Thank you all for watching, whoever tuned in for the first one. Um, Second week is the hardest to, stay consistent with it, so we're getting that done. So
Absolutely.
hopefully we'll do this. We'll be having this every week. First episode, like 100 views. That's pretty wild. I did not
Good
think we
news.
were going to get that many. Thank you all for liking, sharing, whatever. I appreciate it. And if you're new, this is me and Sam. We talk about bears, and
Love the Bears.
we're gonna start today. Mainly, just the whole episode is just gonna be about the Bears game on Sunday. 18-15 loss to the Commanders. Lost with double zeros on the clock with a Hail Mary catch.
Historic game. I mean, absolutely just one for the ages.
Yep,
In not in a good way.
not in a good way.
I do want to start with sort of the beginning of the game. First half, offense was atrocious, but the defense was doing good. Which is it's tough to pull positives from a game like this, but that's how I always like to
Yeah.
think is positives. And the number one positive by far is, man, our defense is something else.
Yeah.
I mean, Commanders have an elite team. You know, they're clearly a playoff team. Jaden Daniels is tough to defend. Their whole team is just doing great, and our defense holding them to all field goals until the end of the game. That was awesome,
Mhm.
you know, and that was what I was thinking in the first half. Is like, man, our offense did terrible the first half, and we were watching the game together.
Mhm.
We had a good time. We watched the game at a sports bar. We had a great time with some of our friends.
Mhm.
Overall, a lot of fun, and just I was thinking like it reminded me a lot of the Houston game,
Yes.
where the defense was keeping an elite offense at bay,
Mhm.
and the offense was just not doing anything.
Yes. Are some things I also want to connect to the Houston game later on in the pod, but we'll come back to that later. But like you said, there are positives to take away from this game, and in such
Mhm.
a reactionary sports media world such as football, with every loss and every win, it seems like respectively a funeral or a festival. And on the last play of the game, when that ball is in the air, it's like a Schrodinger's catch. It can either be, um, I mean, I know that it's about quantum superposition, but
All that kind of
it
stuff.
could have been either a win or a loss, and as soon as
Absolutely.
that thing was in the air, like just God decided, I guess. So, um, yeah, there are funeral aspects to this game, and there are festival aspects to this game. Um, I'm sure for any Commanders fans tuning in, or any divisional rival fans tuning in, or honestly any Bears fans, they want to hear the funeral stuff first. They want to hear us cry over this loss, and I mean, I think that's what I want to do as well. Do you mind if I kind of go into the horrible, horrible, horribles of this game first?
Do your thing. You do the horrible because I know you have. Uh, it is a lot of upsetting views. And I think I have a more positive view on
Mm-hmm.
this. Go off. Just like spill your heart. Spill it
Sure.
all.
So, yeah, I think Caleb Williams did look really bad in the first quarter, for the first half and the third quarter. He picked it up a little bit at the end of the third quarter, but overall third quarter he looked bad too. Um, I mean, I think the offensive line was really, really bad, and not only
Agreed.
that, they got hurt really badly. And we can talk about the injuries later. I'm just kind of giving a big overview, but there is a lot of offensive linemen on the injured list. Not the injured
Yeah,
list, but the injured.
injured reserve.
No. Okay, injured list. Injured list.
Yeah,
Um,
which is horrible.
yes.
Worst thing you want. Worst thing that could happen.
Yes. And you know the defense, like, I mean, just the last play. I mean, honestly, that's the biggest thing. Let's just talk about the last play for 1 second. Tyreek Stevenson, he kind of dropped the ball. I wish he dropped the ball, but no, he tipped the ball. Um, yeah, so he was obviously, as you've seen celebrating or taunting. I don't really know which one it was. He said it was celebrating. I don't care. It does not matter. Um, Point is, his head was not in the play, and I guess he was like, "Oh, it started," then just rushed to get to the backfield, and I don't know if he was going for an interception or going to knock it down, but that was not his assignment. His assignment was to be boxing out number 85, and he instead used his elite athleticism that makes him such a good cornerback
Agreed.
to lose the game for us. He jumped higher than anyone else, and just, I mean, it was is a moment of hubris, and um, I mean, I like the guy. That's not going to change. I really hope this was a good learning experience for him, but um, it was clearly a failure on his part, and he, yeah,
Absolutely. Totally agreed. And I do kind of want to say something to that is like, obviously, like Tyreek Stevenson getting killed in the media. Everyone's like, oh, is this the worst play of all time? Like, is this so, like, no, it's not the worst play of all time. It's a regular season game, not against a division opponent. Like, it sucks to lose, and it obviously sucks to lose that way. And like the taunting thing, like, yeah, it's ridiculous. It's boneheaded. Of course, he's not going to argue that. Like, wherever he's at, there's no way he's like, oh yeah, it was a good idea for me to do that. Of course not. But is it like a good player or a good, not just a good NFL player, anyone who does anything that they care about and they have a moment like that, you learn from it. And like, if I'm Tyreek Stevenson at whatever it is I do, whether it's being an NFL player or being a fucking janitor, like if you're the janitor at a place and you do the worst mopping job of all time, you got to go into work the next day and like prove to everyone around you that like no, I'm that janitor. I'm the best. Like if you've got the mentality to be great at whatever it is you do, you have like this worst moment of all time and you're like, you know what? Maybe I'm known for that forever, but I want people to be like, "Oh, Tyreek Stevenson, that guy who did that horrible worst play of all time, taunted these guys and then he turned out to be a great corner."
hmm
Like that's what you want it to be. You want this to be motivation for a young player who it's his second year, who's been a rising star. I mean, he had a tough game overall, against Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin was giving him the business, but like that's what you expect, a 7-year vet to do to a second-year player.
hmm
But all I can think about is if I was Tyreek Stevenson, I'd be so pissed. I'd be like, man, I just got to get better. Like, I need my highlight reel to be better than my low light reel.
yeah.
And that's a tough ask with that big of a low light, but that's just how I would think.
hmm
And that's how I imagine a hyper competitive NFL player would think is like,
Yeah.
I got to be better.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sure like, man, if I was in that spot, like this would be the hardest week of practice I've ever done in my life.
Yeah.
And I just hope that's what Tyreek Stevenson agrees with.
Yeah. I mean, I 100% agree with you. I think as Kevin Byard said, he probably did not, or as Kevin Byard said to the media the day afterwards, he Stevenson probably didn't get any sleep that night.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like,
He's not the type of guy who's just like, who cares? Like,
Right.
He's probably killing himself over it as we
Right.
speak.
I mean, no NFL player who's like the best at their craft, because like even if you're an athletic freak, you don't get to the NFL without a crazy work
Mhm,
ethic, or at least something like that, or at least a little dog in you, especially to play corner.
mhm,
Like that's a brutal position to play mentally.
yeah.
Um, and if you're worth your salt at corner, you recover from this and you become greater. Like it's going to take a lot of interceptions to outbalance this bad of a play.
Yeah.
But like I hope he does it. And if I was in his spot, like that's the only thing I would be able to think about is like I got to get so much better because like he got roasted by Terry McLaurin, which is another thing I kind of want to get into is Terry McLaurin absolutely roasted our defense.
Yeah.
I mean, he was like their whole offense.
I
It
mean,
was like,
yeah.
ugh.
And
And it's like,
something I didn't know when we were recording the pod last week, Kyler
Mhm.
Gordon, Jaquan Brisker were out for this game on Sunday. And that was a big, big
it was
detriment.
felt.
I mean, I told you like the night before or 2 nights before, I'm like, dude, they're out. Like this game is a lot less winnable now because they are two of the best, defensive players in the league. Like,
Right. I
they,
mean, they're absolute studs. And I think when our five starting defensive backs are Jalen Johnson, all pro, top three corner minimum,
mhm,
Kyler Gordon, Jaquan Brisker, Tyreek Stevenson, and Kevin Byard. I mean, those are all above average, bare minimum players,
mhm,
right?
yeah,
When those are our five starting defensive backs, it is tough to pass on us.
mhm,
But when all of a sudden, we kind of get these holes in our defense and these backups who, just don't see the field that much and aren't quite up to the level of those starting five. One bad, not that there's any bad defensive backs, but one hole in your secondary will make your whole secondary bad.
mhm,
And when we have those five, like it's a dominant secondary, and we've seen that throughout the whole year.
yeah. And honestly, like, I think the defense that we did have kind of speaks to the soul of the team with just how much
Absolutely.
they were able to prevent touchdowns throughout the entire game.
Absolutely. And which another thing, the only touchdown we got scored on us the whole game
Fluke.
was a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
Is like that's just an unbelievable accomplishment against an elite offense who's been putting up a ton of points. Washington isn't winning because of their defense,
Mhm.
except for against us apparently. Right? We shut down what appears to be an elite offense.
Yes.
I mean, they got a lot of yards on us, but they got no touchdowns except for the Hail Mary, which is just, I mean, call it what it is, a freak play.
Yeah.
Um,
And just on Tyreek Stevenson, another thing that I really want to express is, well, I mean, I think the Commanders were kind of their entire team were just being kind of thugs, honestly, like to put it very bluntly. They were like messing with our guys, jostling us around, pushing our
Right.
guys, just shit talking. But Tyreek
they were definitely
Stevenson,
talking a lot.
yes, they were. But Tyreek Stevenson, he was the guy on our team to put his fingers in one of their guys' face masks and lose us 15 yards.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's another thing. I think is kind of it relates to the last play is like that didn't get in Jalen Johnson's head. At least, again, obviously, this is only what we can see from the broadcast, right? But it seemed like it didn't get in Jalen Johnson's head. It didn't get in any of the other defensive players' head, but it did get kind of seemed like it got into Tyreek Stevenson's head.
Yeah. And I don't think. I mean, who cares who started it? Who was the main
Right.
aggressor? If you get the flag called on you, you're the biggest loser on that.
Absolutely. And I will say, I think the Bears, we do have, especially our defense. We've kind of gotten into a lot of fights this year, and I like that, especially out of defense.
Yeah.
If your offense gets into a lot of fights, that's a bad thing.
Mhm.
If your defense gets into a lot of fights, that's a good thing.
Mhm.
I think is the way I think about it. But Washington's offense, and that's kind of where a lot of like the clashing was happening. There was a lot of that, and I think they kind of got the best of our defense in a lot of ways. Obviously, no touchdowns except for the Hail Mary, but I totally get what you're saying. It seemed like they were talking a lot of shit. There's like a little bit of extracurricular as far as like fighting and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that turned out to be in the end Washington's advantage.
Yeah. I mean, who's to say, like, if it didn't get under Tariq Stevenson's head, like, under his skin that much, maybe he's not, like, overly, like, confident going into that last play.
Right, right, absolutely. And kind of just to like kind of close the book
Yeah.
on the Hail Mary is, first off, I feel like we win that game however many times out of 100, right?
Mhm.
Whether you say it's 99 or 90, the Bears played a good enough game to win.
Mhm.
As far as the Hail Mary play, and they got a freak play. I mean, if the ball is thrown 1 inch shorter, then Stevenson knocks it down to the ground and it doesn't go backwards.
Sure.
If the ball is thrown 1 inch higher, then it lands harmlessly in the grass or whatever.
Yeah.
Those kind of, like, maybe there's a gust of wind that blew it up into his fingertips, right? That kind of thing. And luck, as much as we hate to say it doesn't exist in sports, be like, sports is never about luck. There's luck in things like that.
Mhm.
And it's in every sport. It's in baseball. It's in basketball. There's shots that bounce off the rim and go in, and there's shots that bounce off the rim and go out because some fan breathed hard and it knocked the ball. And same thing in hockey. It can bounce off the goalie and go in or go out.
Yeah.
And same thing in football. And it wouldn't be fun if the better team won every time. Is it fun if the Chiefs go 17-0 and win the Super Bowl? No, it's fun when they lose to the Raiders.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they almost did, but
Would have been nice.
it's not. That's not how sports goes. But
Yeah, but I mean,
to get to
when you
my
talk
point,
about luck-
it's like we win that game most of the time, and
Yeah.
it sucks that we lost it, and it sucks for our season. And I also, and to kind of like on the whole Tyreek Stevenson thing, I feel bad for him. I don't think he's not a hardworking player. I don't think he's not a good player.
I still like him.
Exactly. Like, I'm still a fan of him, and like if he like continues to be a good player, like that's someone where if he bounces back from this, I would be so proud to wear his jersey and be like, because I could see a lot of myself in someone like that, where it's like,
Yeah. I mean, I
even though
made
he
a lot
had,
of
like,
mistakes.
even though like exactly, it's like I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, like, and it sucks that it's like, a literal like millions of people watching national like mistake, but like if you can bounce back from that, like that's the type of player I like. I don't like a player who's perfect.
Yeah.
So like that's something like honestly like I feel bad about, but it's like, man, I hope this guy like proves everyone wrong. Like I hope like this guy shuts down Justin Jefferson. Like when Tyreek Stevenson gets a pick on Jordan Love, like I'm gonna like shit talk every Packers fan I ever knew.
Sure.
Because like, oh, like this guy who like you clown so much just like got the interception to win the game. Like that's the kind of thing you want as sports fans.
Yeah. But I will say on the Hail Mary, 100% it is luck. But whether it's 90% chance, when people aren't doing what they're supposed to, the chance of it succeeding goes up, even if
Absolutely.
it's just by a little. So
Absolutely.
it's
And
not.
of course, another big talking point is the play
Flus.
before.
Yes,
Yeah,
but
and the
I do want to
coaching.
talk about
Coaching
Flus.
philosophy
Mhm.
of the play before.
Yeah.
Um,
I
Do
don't
you
know.
allow that 15-yard pass?
Well, first off, I think that 15-yard pass, or maybe the one before. I mean, I think that one was actually incomplete. I think it jostled around on the ground a little bit, and no one called the challenge on it, which was, I mean, if that was overturned, that's a big difference.
So I will say I don't think you can challenge inside 2 minutes. I think
okay.
is a thing.
Yeah. All right.
I think.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But I mean, either way, I think Flus had a lot of bad. I want to save that because I have a lot to talk about on that.
Agreed.
But Doug Kramer, what was that?
I think that's the real low moment of the game.
Mhm.
Because as much as the Hail Mary was the game-losing play, I think that was more of the game-losing play.
Yeah, I mean,
Because we can control that.
Yeah.
As a play caller, as a team, we can control that way more than we can control the Hail Mary.
yeah, and yeah, I mean, also just on the game-losing play kind of thing. I don't think that play lost us the game. I mean, it lost us the game, but if I'm gonna say who lost the game, it's the team who lost the game. Now,
Absolutely.
who gave up that touchdown? There's two people. Two people in our control. There's Eberflus and there's Tyreek Stevenson.
Right.
However, that Doug Kramer play, like, Dude, and this is the thing that pisses me off because just the week before, just last Wednesday, I think, or last Thursday or something, they dropped Kiran Amagaji, your fullback. I mean, I don't know if he was fully healthy
Right.
to play. I'm pretty sure he was. I think he was just coming off of injury. Um, why are you running someone who is not a fullback as fullback and drop your fullback? I don't get it. I really don't.
This is the play I think is way dumber than the Hail Mary, right?
Mhm.
Because it's just you want to have like the O lineman who goes in there and blocks. Awesome. I love it. Let him blow up a hole for the running back. I I feel like it's a bit of a I think I could be totally wrong here, but I want to throw this out there. I think Flus or whoever it is wants to have be like, oh, we got the Fridge 2.0 because obviously Kramer is popular because he got that like cool block and like he's got the cool package. Anytime there's a big player who does something like that, you love him just because like it's fun to see like the big guys do something cool. And like, yeah, it would have been awesome if he scored the touchdown, but like, what are we doing? Like, this is not 1985. Teams know how to stop this. We know the analytics and the data of like this is a bad idea. Like, just hand it off to Roshan Johnson,
Yeah.
the guy who you paid millions of dollars. Like, Roshan Johnson has a clearly defined role on this team, and it is short yardage, right? DeAndre Swift is our main back. He's our, first, second, third down, and,
I have
and
I have
any
a lot to
distance that's
talk
more
about
than one or
DeAndre
two.
Swift. Yeah, but
DeAndre Swift, give him the ball. Maybe he'll break it for 80 yards or whatever. He had the long touchdown. And clearly, I don't want DeAndre Swift at the goal line. I
sure.
want Roshan Johnson.
Yeah.
That feels like kind of our lightning and thunder duo.
Yeah. And I
Why
at
are
the
we
bar,
considering it?
I was yelling like, "Why are we not giving it to Roshan?" Sam, I have a
Right, yeah, and I remember
statistic
you
for
saying
you.
that.
I have a statistic for you. Um, there is one player in the NFL who has at least minimum 4 touches within the 5-yard goal line who has gotten a touchdown every single time. Do you know who that running back is in the NFL?
I imagine it's Roshan Johnson.
You're right. You're right. It's Roshan Johnson. It is not Doug Kramer.
No. You want to send him in a block? Sure. Nothing horrible happens if he whiffs the block, then it's second or third down or whatever
Sure.
it is.
Yeah. And admittedly, like, the handoff by Caleb Williams was a little bit high, but I mean, let's be honest, that's not a running back could have salvaged that, obviously.
Right. And it's just, I mean, that flips the game for us because if we give it to Roshan or whatever we do, and we get a touchdown there, and then our offense clearly was rolling. The rest of the game, the offense was rolling.
Mhm.
We put that game away. Eventually, knowing what we know about what our offense was going to do, we would have won if we just did something normal. Just be normal, and that's something I want to see more of out of our team. Is just like be normal. Like
Yeah.
we lost the game because not because we couldn't execute. In the first half, yes, we couldn't do the normal things. But when we do the things that are just football plays, that's when the Bears are at their best. When Caleb Williams is throwing those intermediate routes, he's not trying to throw an 80-yard bomb. We're not trying to get cute and creative. That's when we win. And we have the team that's good enough to win because we have elite receivers who demand double coverage. We have an explosive running back, and we have a promising quarterback. Like we have all the tools to be good on offense and great on defense.
Yeah.
If we just stick to our guns, which we didn't do, especially on that play. That's really the play that gets to me more than the Hail Mary.
Right.
Is like that could have been like the start of the comeback that really sealed the game.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because we wanted to get creative and we wanted to create our own fridge. I think they wanted to create the Fridge 2.0, and I think that's a ridiculous thing to want out of the coaching staff. I really think
that is an interesting theory. I had not.
I mean, I really do think that because as a coaching staff, they haven't had like a kind of a signature. Obviously, they have Caleb Williams, but like if you get someone like that, oh, they're really popular. Everyone, it's the Fridge 2.0. I really think that at some level they wanted to create this, and it went
maybe
horribly. Total conspiracy theory, but I think they just wanted to kind of create a buzz around that. Because if he scored that touchdown, it would be on every TikTok. It would be on every like ESPN. If that was like the touchdown that started our comeback, it would be everywhere and like valid. Like it would be awesome. But so winning the game would be more awesome.
All
Like,
right.
uh,
So I think that's probably about all the negatives I have for the game, aside from the coaching, the play calls, the utilization of players. But I think that is a big, big, big topic. We can come back to that a little bit later. For
right.
now, I want to go to the alternate reality where Jaden Daniels throws the ball and Tyreek Stevenson's blocking out um, Noah Brown, and Kevin Byard catches it for an interception and gets a pick six, runs it downfield.
Right, right.
I want to go to that alternate reality where the Bears won and we are now 5-2. Can we talk about the positives of the game? Sam, who is your player of the game? Your Bears Cave player of the game?
If we had won, and even still that we lost, it's Caleb Williams for his resilience.
Really? Okay.
I mean, absolutely. We've seen this out of him before, and I think it's his most impressive trait. Is he was terrible in the first half, or the offense as a whole. Whether I'm not calling the plays. I don't know who he's supposed to throw to. I don't know what routes they're supposed to run. Whatever. Things were horrible in the first half. 0 points. Absolutely shut out. Terrible, horrible. And Caleb, he didn't get frustrated. He didn't get flustered. He didn't let it get to him. He showed everything you want out of a potential franchise quarterback. He got in there. He was like, F all that. Let's go. I'm just going to take it one play at a time. He showed everything you want out of a quarterback as far as he didn't give up. He kept us in the game. He did everything we needed him to do when the chips were on the line. And, well, the first half woes have been a common theme this season. Caleb being able to, just shrug it off. I mean, he's going to have bad plays. You're going to have bad plays. And he's shown the ability to have a short memory, which is key when your offense struggles in the first half. He really put us in a position to win.
Okay.
He did everything he could have in the second half. Yeah, could we have won 35 to whatever? Sure.
Yeah.
But he showed the ability to adjust, to keep looking forward, to not look back, and I think that was really impressive to watch out of him. I really like that.
Nice. I mean, that's it's not. I was hoping you were gonna go with this guy because I had a number two who I wanted to say, but
You
I'll
go
bring
with
him up later. Obviously, I mean DeAndre Swift. What like?
Oh yeah.
He was incredible. I mean,
Yep.
obviously the biggest moment of the game for him is the I don't know whatever it
touchdown.
was 60-yard run.
Yeah, right. Breakaway touchdown.
Yeah, that was insane. Just really good movement, really good athleticism, good speed, good staying inside the lines. I thought that was really impressive, but I mean the Goomba stomp where he just jumped over the other guy, that was so
Awesome
hyped.
play.
That was legendary. I mean,
He's an exciting player to watch.
yeah,
Which
I
is
mean,
awesome.
it got like 3 more yards or something, 4 more yards, but I mean that I with that move, it felt like the entire momentum of the game had shifted. It just felt like, where are you going, man? Okay.
Sorry, I just had to sneeze.
It felt like the game had shifted. So yeah, DeAndre Swift, incredible game, and honestly, I think people need to start talking about him
Yeah,
nationally because he's a really good running back, and he
absolutely.
had a really, really, really rough start the first few weeks. I'm really happy like we kind of stuck with him, and I'm glad like he got that heat on him and he was able to improve. I think he's really meshed with our kind of offense now, and he kind of understands it a little better. So,
Yeah.
really happy for him.
Again, resilience is what I want to see out of my athletes.
Yeah.
I don't want my athletes, to be just someone who's. I mean, I want Caleb Williams to be someone who's just great all the time.
Mhm.
But it's more inspiring and more fun to watch to see a resilient athlete
Yeah.
like that.
But my number two, or maybe even my number one, because of how much of an impact on the game he made. Do you have any guess?
Honestly, I don't.
Okay. It is Tory motherfucking Taylor. Tory Taylor.
Hey, that's a good pick. That's a good pick.
He genuinely like changed the game for us because
Yeah.
I mean, I'm serious. We could have lost by so much more if because all of these field goals they made, they were inside the red zone. If Tory doesn't get those extra 10 yards or extra 20 yards if he if it goes inside the end
Right, the
zone and gets
touchback.
a touchback, um, we lose. They give up a lot of touchdowns
Right,
because
yeah.
just that extra 15 yards, like that had saved so many points for us. It was incredible.
Agreed.
I do have a list of Tory Taylor punts here that I want to read out to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
There were 6 elite ones and one kind of not good one. His first punt of the game, 68 yards to the Washington 12. This was a no bouncer. This just they caught this. So 68
Fair
yards
catch.
air, which is incredible. That's his
Well,
longest
yep.
punt of the year. Um, beating out his second longest by 2 yards, and that one was a roller.
Mhm.
Second one, 32 yards to Washington 9. 52
And I'm back,
yards to Washington 9. 32 yards to Washington 8. 49 yards to Washington 44. This one was the not good one. But
Right.
that was kind of when we were at our like 7-yard line. And it is
You're
harder.
kinda not gonna
It is
block
harder
there.
to punt back there.
Right.
Not saying like it's it kind of like fully excuses it, but that's kind of the justification for probably why that one wasn't as good.
Right.
6-1, 53 yards to the Washington 7, and then the final one, 55 yards to the Washington 9. So,
That's a lot of long fields.
yes, and 5 of them were within the 10, and
Yeah.
the other one was at the 12, and that was 68 yards, and the other
Yeah.
one was, not great. But that is incredible.
Yeah.
And
And
considering
you're
they ended
absolutely right.
a lot of these with field goals, that saved
Yeah.
so many points for us.
Yeah. That's an absolutely great point, and he's been great all year, and that's the type of player where it's not something you think about, but you're gonna punt every game for the most part,
Mhm.
unless you're crushing a team and it's like you were gonna win anyways. You're gonna punt every game,
Yeah.
and field position, especially with our defense and our slow start offense, is gonna matter a lot, and
Yeah.
that's gonna help us in games. That's gonna matter.
Yeah.
That's gonna matter, and I agree that he was a star of the game.
Yeah, I think Tory Taylor combined with the defense is what kept us in this game, and
Mhm.
DeAndre Swift was the one who kind of turned it around, brought the momentum back,
Agreed.
rejuvenated everyone with that 60-yard rush or something, and then just kept us in it with all these long runs. So,
Yeah,
2-star
that's
players
a great
for me.
point. Yeah, totally agreed. Tory Taylor, especially now that you read back those punts, is like, man, that's some good punting.
Oh, that's a
Which
really
is
good punt.
it's a very Chicago Bears thing to say, to be like we're proud of our punter, but
Mhm.
that's a weapon. I mean that's someone that is going to impact a lot of games.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, with our offense, we're punting every game multiple times.
Mm.
Like, obviously, we're going to score. We're going to have our big offensive games, but
Yeah.
we're going to punt every game, and they're going to be good. Like you just said, I mean, all of those punts except for the one, like you said, were 12 or farther. It takes a special drive to go more than 90 yards,
Mm.
Especially against an elite defense like the Bears.
Mhm.
Like that's a good deal.
Yeah, and honestly, like another player who I thought did really well, Roma Dunze. I think he did really well that game. I think he had some really good separation. I think he caught the ball well. I think he moved well. Like once he had the ball, I thought he did really well. And I'm
Yeah.
I'm excited with kind of how this is developing. I mean, he did not have as flashy of a game as you'd kind of hope.
Not a
Like when you
huge
look,
amount of numbers.
yeah, you're not gonna like look at the stat sheet and it pops out to you. Um, but I thought it was really good, and yeah, I was excited with that. Um, yeah, dude,
Yeah, I agree. I thought Rome, he's developing well, and a three-headed monster at receiver is tough to guard.
Mhm.
It's easy enough. You got one good receiver, you put two guys on him, he's not getting open.
Mhm.
Two good receivers is tough to cover, but you can manage. Three good receivers, there's just no way.
yeah,
There's just no way.
yeah. And yeah, we are a team with a lot of good receivers. We got obviously our three receivers, and we got Komet.
Right? DeAndre Swift out of the backfield too is a receiving threat.
Yes, he is. And yeah, I mean, we
Yeah,
got
I mean
some,
that's a lot of threats to cover,
yeah, we got some good hands.
especially as Odunze develops. If he can be the player, if he kind of lives up to his draft stock, we are going to be a tough team to defend.
Yes.
Going forward.
Yes. And let's see. Who else did I think? A positive, not necessarily someone who did good, but a positive for me was Karan Amagaji. Um, and that's not because he did good, but simply because he was there, honestly. He has not gotten any, playing time outside of special teams this year. And for him to get some, meaningful reps and be able to put tape, put plays on tape, I thought that's very impactful, and I think that's going to be good for him because that's the thing I was most worried about. Like, you can practice with the team, you can do training camp, but honestly, for most of his tenure, he's been kind of recovering from his injury, and hasn't been able to play much. So I'm really glad he got to play, and he had a couple good plays, but for the most part, he didn't do that great. But I mean, he's a rookie, and I'm just
Right.
happy he was able to get out there.
Yeah. And any offensive lineman who can block anyone is a good player for your team.
Yeah.
You need. I mean, no offensive line is going to make it through the whole season healthy. It's just not going to happen.
Our entire offensive line did not make it through this week healthy, so
Oh,
we'll talk
that's
about injuries.
the
a little
really
bit.
bad part about that game.
Yes, yeah, that's not good. Let's see. Any other positives? That you want to point out?
I mean,
I think DJ
not
Moore
really
actually
that I can think of. I think we
had a
covered
really
most
good
of them.
second half. I think there was one play of his where it was a fake handoff, and then he gave it to DJ Moore. And DJ Moore had a good run, and then he had a really good catch around the 10-yard line. I think
We know DJ Moore is going to play good.
Yeah.
That's not a surprise to anyone.
Yeah, okay. I think that is all there for the positives. Now, one of the worst parts about this game was the coaching. Honestly, I think the play calling was bad. I think the utilization was bad. I think the timeout management was bad. But honestly, all of that can be excused if they recognize what they did wrong. And from what I've seen with the media afterwards the game and even up until today, they're not taking accountability. And I think that's a very big issue. First thing I want to bring up, I don't think they used Komet at all.
Agreed. I think Komet should get 6, 7, 8 targets a game.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tight end is a rookie quarterback's best friend.
Yeah.
Big target. If you're a little bit off, he'll still catch it.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of the whole point of the tight end.
Yeah.
As far
and,
as
obviously they used him on that extra two point, which I thought was very good. But other than that, there were some times where he was kind of just wide open, and Caleb didn't throw it to him, but I guess he's also not the first target in that that kind of a play. Yeah, obviously, I think the coaching just made some really bad decisions. Just Doug Kramer,
Right.
but we kind of talked about that already.
I will say, and I kind of want to get into this, is I think the coaching staff should be on thin ice.
Yeah.
Especially not just because we lost this game, but because of the way we lost this game.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't lose it because Washington had better players than us, and or whatever. We lost it because of poor coaching decisions
Yeah.
on a lot of levels.
Yes. And I think that
And-
last drive up until today is kind of the reason I feel so kind of negatively about this coaching because I mean, obviously Flus should have called a timeout before the Hail Mary. He said that everyone was
Agreed.
all set, and that's why he didn't call a timeout. First off, even if that's true, you should still do that. Just get your guys ready, talk to them, okay, they're rushing into this Hail Mary. Let's take a breath, let's calm ourselves, let's. But I mean, second off, they weren't all set. Tyreek Stevenson was out there in the corner talking to the stands.
Yeah.
And the play before, they really should have moved the guys up.
Right.
But I mean, and you know what? That's fine. That's fine if they didn't. But then Eberflus says after the game that didn't matter. That the 15 yards don't matter. It doesn't matter if it's 70 yards or 50 yards. That's not true at all. That's
Right.
not true at
Agreed.
all. If
I mean, you can debate whether it was the right or wrong thing to do, but as the coach, as the leader, to not take accountability there, I think is not how I would want to see it.
yes.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, if I feel like I'm the leader of something and it goes wrong, then I'm taking accountability for like I'm going even if I believe in my whole heart that I was right to play that defense, I'm like, yeah, it was my bad, it was my call, the players didn't do anything wrong. I made the mistake that cost. I feel like the coach should say that. And I feel like a good coach does. At least that's my opinion.
Yeah.
Because it almost makes it seem like it takes the responsibility out of his hands, which is not what you want from a coach. I mean, what do you think Mike Tomlin would have said up there, or Bill Belichick? You think Bill Belichick is going up there and being like, "Oh, whatever." I mean, maybe that's a bad example because Bill Belichick might just be like, "Oh, we played the numbers, whatever, blah blah blah." But I mean,
like,
no, I think a good coach is going up, like Mike Tomlin is going up there being like, "That was my mistake. I should have had the guys in better position. I should have made sure we were all set." I feel like that's what a great elite coach would go up there and say.
I think honestly, fuck the coach part of it. I think a good leader up there would go up.
Agreed.
And take
Not just 100%. Not just a good coach, a good leader.
like Tom
is
Brady.
going up
Like
there.
would Tom Brady go up there and be like, "Yeah, it's just Tyreek Stevenson ruined the game for us." No.
He's going up there being like, "I should have thrown 10 touchdowns
Yes.
to win us the game," right?
Yeah.
And like that's what you want out of a leader is, and I feel like, and quotes in the media are kind of whatever, but like, I just feel like it sends a bad message to the team, and this is the type of game that like can break a team, and
Yes.
I'm a little bit worried that without the proper leadership, it kind of will.
Yes. And honestly, thankfully, I think we have some really good leaders on the team. Obviously Cole Kmet. But I mean, I think, I think Byard,
Right.
Jalen Johnson.
Byard, right? Like the veterans.
Mhm.
I think the defense is going to be fine because they have those guys. Offense is a little shakier because it's most of the veterans are new to the team.
Yes.
But I think the defense will be fine. I think they'll be able to recover. But man, is it a tough spot? But I also want to get on this is like I hope we have that because the season's not dead. This isn't season over.
No, it is not. It is not over. Well, I think the playoff odds have diminished drastically with this game. I think this was not for me. This was not a must-win game. I think there was still like I think I think these next two are must-win games.
Absolutely.
But I mean, honestly, I think if we can go 4-2 in the division, which I know is going to be very hard, and I know we can't sweep both the Packers and the Vikings, I think I'll take my odds with sweeping the Vikings, taking one against the Packers, and hopefully winning the second one against the Lions. I think that one's at home. I think we can definitely make it if we can go 4-2. That'll be hard, but
Right.
honestly,
I mean, I was going to say, I think if we go 3-3 in the division, we've done everything we can. And then if the Cards don't fall our way, then they don't fall our way and we don't make the playoffs.
Yeah.
Whatever. But if we go 3-3 in the division, we've done our job, which is really what it comes down to.
Sure.
I think more than anything is if we can split with everyone or sweep the Vikings and split with the Packers or however we end up doing it, if we don't compete in our division, then it's a failure of a season.
Sure.
If we go 3-3 as the team who is the furthest behind in the terms of Super Bowl window, right? When we think about our division, it's like Lions clearly are in their Super Bowl.
Yes.
Packers and Vikings are clearly ahead of us in development. They have
Well, I think the Vikings. I think we're probably a better team than the Vikings, but the Vikings right now just had such a hot start, and that's going to be hard.
I mean, well, they're the Vikings. They do shit like that, and then they collapse, and we're seeing it in real time.
Yeah, I know.
The Vikings do shit like that. But the Packers are like a year or two ahead of us in terms of their young quarterback is more developed. You know, their team's been together longer. Their coach has been there longer. They have a way better coach than us, which fucking sucks. They're clearly ahead of us in terms of like the playoff Super Bowl development. If we can go 3-3 with those teams, we're on the right track. Whether we make the playoffs or not is a little bit out of our control, right? Because whether we make the playoffs or not, if we go 3-3, depends on what the other teams do.
Yeah.
If we beat the teams we're supposed to beat, we go 3-3 in the playoff in the division. The playoffs is a little bit out of our control at that point because we've done all we can do. Yeah. We're not going 6-0 in the division. We're not sweeping the Lions. Like, that's just not happening.
No, it is not.
We know, and no Bears fan should think we're better than the Lions, right?
No, of course not.
If we go 3-3 in the division, regardless of what else happens, it's a successful year in my book.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, my goal for this season was to win one playoff game. And I think that was a bit of a lofty goal. I mean, I'm not saying I'm giving up on the goal, obviously, but I wanted to set a high goal for myself. But the thing is, that's not my goal for the Bears. My goal for the Bears is to win. I want them to get more Super Bowls than the Kansas City Chiefs. That is my goal. And you know, I want to focus on development more than win now. I don't want us to sell all our first round picks just to get one win in the playoffs. Like, that's not what I care about.
Absolutely.
And honestly, like, this is a rough game. And it's rough for our playoff chances. It's not dead, but it's rough for it.
A good team bounces back.
Yeah. And honestly, if we can't make it to the playoffs when we started off 4-3, then we don't deserve to go to the playoffs. Like, I mean, yeah, we if we don't make the playoffs, there's 100% chance that we are better than some other team in the playoffs, simply because NFC North is so tough.
Absolutely.
But that doesn't matter because the team that we're better than, they're not winning the Super Bowl.
No.
And we wouldn't either if we made it.
Yeah, I mean, there was almost zero chance the Bears are winning the Super Bowl this year.
I mean, because no one was under that impression.
And what we want is, number one, first and foremost, out of anything, Caleb looks good. And it's been up and down, but he has shown everything I've wanted him to show, right? He's battled through adversity. He's been resilient. When things get tough, he doesn't give up, and he's also dominated bad teams.
Yeah.
We didn't expect to be we never were going to beat the Texans. It was just never going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, that game was super close, though, and I was... that wasn't like a gut punch loss. I mean,
no.
I think that something that I wanted to connect to was, I think at that game, Flus kind of messed up with the challenge flags. I think he threw two challenge flags.
There's a lot of parallels between that game and the Washington game.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, honestly, like, I'm still positive about the season, but with Flus in particular, I think if he can't show accountability and if he can't be the command respect. I never thought Flus was a good head coach by the X's and the O's. Now, I think he can learn that. I think he can be better. But if he can't accept accountability and try to be better, he's not gonna grow. Like, he's not gonna learn that if he always thinks he's right. And obviously, this is just him talking to the media.
Absolutely.
This could be different in-house, but...
Absolutely.
I mean, it's still not a good look.
To get onto that point, is like, if we come out flat against Arizona, which is a team we should beat, I think we're better than the Cardinals.
Yeah.
If we come out flat against them, if we come out unprepared, if the Bears look like the loss is still affecting them, then that's on the coach. That's not on the players, I think.
Maybe. maybe.
I feel like
I
it
think
totally is.
that I don't. I mean, I think that kind of blaming the coach for. I think the team can win regardless of a coach. I think this game is it's going to be on everyone if they don't win. I think this is a game we really should win. Um, I mean I think the Cardinals um, are a very fun team. I think they are
Oh yeah,
kind of they're a young team. I feel like they're like the Washington Nationals, where they're kind of just starting to rebuild and stuff, and like they
right.
got lot of young talent and a lot of exciting things in the works, but they're not at the level of kind of other. I mean, they're 4-4 though, so I mean,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's not a free win.
sure
It's
it's not.
not. They're not a true shitter team.
Mhm.
If we're not prepared, we are going to lose.
Yeah,
If we're still letting this loss against Washington affect us, we're going to lose.
yeah,
If our mind isn't 100% forgotten about that,
yeah,
we are going to lose.
yeah. And we as
Um,
fans, we're looking on to the playoffs right now, but for the
right.
people in Hallis Hall, there should be one thing on their mind. That's the Cardinals game.
Yeah. And I think they win. I think it's a little bit low scoring. I think we win like 20-17.
No,
I mean, my
the Cardinals' biggest weakness is their defense, and if we don't come out and score 30 or more points against them, then that's kind of not a good
yeah,
look.
we have some demons to exercise in this game.
Yeah, and
Big time.
some big things I need to talk about. I need to get off my chest is the injuries of the Bears. And first thing I want to talk about is the offensive line. Well, first thing I think is, well, let me just double check this to make sure I'm right. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you. I'm still
Okay.
here.
Ryan Bates is coming back. So I think he is coming back for this Sunday game, which will be will be his first game as a Chicago Bear, which is very exciting.
Good news.
I can't wait to see how he does. I mean, I think Nate Davis is actually healthy, so I think he'll be able to play. But
Hopefully that's good.
talking about injuries, Tevin Jenkins. Well, I think he's the least injured on the offensive line from what I'm about to say. And I think he's actually probably our number one, number two best guy on the offensive line.
I think at this current moment, he's our best offensive lineman
But the
when
thing
he's
is,
healthy.
when he's healthy, he's injured
Right.
a lot.
Yeah, just
And
tough.
he went down in that game last week. So and I think he came back in, and then I think he got out again.
Yeah.
He's very injury prone, but I mean, if we can keep him healthy, I think he's a very good offensive lineman. Braxton Jones, that seems like a no for this Sunday. Um, Karan Amagaji, definitely no. Bill Murray, he went to IR with a pectoral injury, which I mean, I actually knew about him kind of before the season because I thought he looked really good in preseason games, and obviously just his name. Um,
Right. Funny name. Yeah, right.
but that is kind of sad that he's on IR now.
Never want that.
Yeah, so we got some injuries on the offensive line. DJ Moore
Really tough.
is completely free of the injured announcements. I'm sorry if I
Good.
sorry if
That
I
was the
scared
scariest
you.
point of the game. That was I was
Yes,
I
yes.
remember I looked at you, I'm like, that is
Dude,
the worst
that would-
injury. That was so scary.
Yeah, and we've been lucky to not have any injuries on wide receivers or running backs.
Right. I mean, Keenan Allen missed a few games, but
Oh, but yeah, he did.
we knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
That's been like the kind of MO of his career. And older wide receivers, you're just not going to get 17 games out of them.
Yeah.
Older players in general.
But kind of the biggest disappointment is from the press conference today. It sounded like Kyler Gordon and Jaquan Brisker are less than hopeful to come back on Sunday, which it's just tough. It's really really tough to play without them.
Yeah. And another thing I think, especially about those two, is they bring the juice. They bring energy to our defense.
Oh yeah.
in a big way.
Yeah. I mean, dude, Kyler Gordon with the Spider-Man shit, like
yeah, it's awesome.
he's so cool.
And I'm sure that hypes up the other defensive players. That
Mhm.
gets everyone like juice.
Yeah.
And I could definitely like see that our team felt like a little bit they were lacking that,
Mhm. Yeah.
which is just natural.
Yeah. I mean, those two are
Man,
very
if we're
energetic
without those
guys.
two, it's gonna be another rough game.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
can still win. Obviously, you can win without anyone.
Hmm.
Uh, but it's gonna make it a lot more difficult without those two.
Yeah. And I really hope at least one of them is able to come back. Um, yeah, it's tough. It's really tough missing them. Um, but a lot of offensive linemen on the injured announcements for this week, which is,
Not a good
I
thing.
think we really got to trade for someone. I really think we do.
It's
Um,
just, I mean, would love that, but what team is giving up a good offensive lineman is the thing.
I mean, I think the Vikings just got one. I mean, it's not a great offensive line, but I think they got
Right.
like Cam Robinson or something for like a fifth round pick. I mean, there are options out there. And, I trust Ryan Poles to work his magic.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
but I think, like, if we go into Sunday without, I mean, well, I mean, to be fair, I don't think the Cardinals' defense is that scary. But I think if we go into the Packers game without a strong offensive line, Caleb's going
It's
to be
gonna
in
be
some real health danger. Uh,
yeah. To put it lightly.
yeah. And obviously, I hope all our guys are healed up by then. But
Yeah,
I think we need to make at least one or two offensive lineman moves before the trade
yeah.
deadline.
It's a tough
Um,
position to fix, but it's an important one.
yeah. Yep. Um. Anyway,
Want to give up closing thoughts?
yeah. Thoughts about overall thoughts about Washington versus Bears.
Uh, I think there's been a lot of negativity overall
Yeah.
about the Bears in this loss, which I get because it's a soul-crushing, brutal loss.
Hmm.
But I think we should still have hope for the future. And I think if there's anyone to blame, it's Flus. And I don't think it's Ryan Poles. I've seen people criticizing Ryan Poles.
Hmm.
I think he's put together a quality team with a lot of quality players that weren't utilized.
Yeah.
That's how I'm seeing it. I don't know everything from the outside looking in. As just a fan of a team that I like, that was my take. And I hope we get better. And I hope we win every game for the rest of the season.
Yeah. Kind of piggybacking off of kind of your thoughts, it is so much easier. It's so much easier to gravitate towards negativity than positivity. Whenever something devastating happens, whenever something kind of just hurts you happens, you always want to find someone to blame. You always want to do something drastic. You don't want to like look on the bright side because that's not easy.
Mhm.
That's not easy. You want to you know get angry. You want to put that blame on someone, and that's fair. That's human nature. But at the same time, when you kind of step back and look at it from you know a wide view lens, it's just one game. It's not a playoff game. We're still 4-3. We have a very hard schedule ahead of us, but we have a lot of promising players. There was a lot of positive things you can take away from that game. Um, I think DeAndre Swift is someone who I've just been getting hotter and hotter on every game since like week 2 or 3, and yeah, I think there's a lot of positives, and there's definitely stuff that needs changing, but it's not burn the house down,
Right.
escape with the kids and the cats. You gotta look at it a bit rationally, but I mean, for this week up until Sunday, cry yourself to sleep. But just remember that we got Caleb Williams. We got a lot of really cool guys on the team, so
Yeah.
don't worry too much. And it's
Fully agreed.
when that
I like
ball was
that.
up in the air, we could have been ranked
Anyway.
fifth in the NFL. And it doesn't matter.
Right.
It really doesn't matter, except for the win-loss record. That's the
Right.
only thing that changes. It doesn't change anything about our team, who's on it. So that is just my
Fully agreed.
thoughts.
Love the way you said that.
Well, yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this episode once again. Um, this has been Tom and Sam from the Bears Cave. Sam, what do you got to say to these lovely, lovely people watching tonight?
Bear down. Let's beat the Cardinals and let's do everything we can to win. And Caleb Williams, still that guy.
Bear down. Beat the Cardinals like they are from St. Louis. All right, guys, have a
Right.
great night. See you guys later. See you next week. Goodbye.